can I go?
It's already running.
Okay, hello guys. So this talk is going to be about getting started with open source, and it's more or less going to be the continuation of the first talk, which was about my personal GSOC experience, and I'm going to tell you why you should have a newcomer guide, and from the perspective of a newcomer, what to do with this newcomer's guide. So this talk is going to be split into two parts. In the first one, I'm going to tell you from the perspective of a newcomer, as in how to find that guide and what to do, how to ask people and stuff so they respond. And the other part, I will tell you as a maintainer why they don't answer to some stupid questions, and I will just explain from both sides of it. So, as it is explained, I like this picture because it's quite explaining how someone enters a community. It's a hard way to go up there, but it's totally worth it. But yes, it's hard. And my first advice would be to talk to the people, because most people, even if they don't show it, maintainers care that you are there, and they want to know that you are willing to help them, willing to contribute, because after all, you're contributing to their software. You're going to become a part of their community, but more or less you are contributing to their software. You are helping it become bigger. So you have to let them know you are there. And of course, some of them more or less in some organizations, for example in Koala, you can easily find guidance. They will just, there's two kinds of guidance. You can get one from people. They will help you by you asking them questions and them answering. Or they could just link the newcomer's guide if they have one. For example, Koala has the one that I wrote, and I'm going to talk about it later. And you would just read that guide and try to reproduce whatever it says there, and only then you should ask questions about it if anything is unclear, because that guide is usually somehow an automation that helps maintainers not answer every question. Like, that would take a lot of time. So you should really follow the guide, even if it is quite stuffed and full and you see like blocks of text. Maybe some guides aren't even interactive, they're just how to, and you have many blocks of text, continuous text, and it may sound boring. Trust me, if you go through it, and if it's step-based, like Koala's is, then you will just end up doing what it says there, and you will get yourself an issue merged, and for the next ones, you can just remember what you did, or if not, you can just follow the guide. If you were to ask someone questions, then maybe you would forget, that answer would be lost, you would forget, what did I do at that point? Maybe I should try to ask them again, but that would take a lot of that person's time, and doing that all the time would just be annoying. So you should really try to follow that guide. One thing I have seen in my experience of both as a newcomer and a developer, maintainer, I have seen that people don't know how to ask questions, including myself. So there's people that would just ask whatever crosses their mind, and this is really annoying because all the people would see a more or less stupid question which could have easily been Googled and found the answer, and they would just ask this question and waste a lot of time of the other people's. And if that question isn't written correctly, or at least fluent in English, or it makes no sense, or something like that, they are saying that you are trying to engage a discussion, and this would probably cost the maintainers a lot of time. And what they want from you is you to ask a really concise question, and they would just, whenever they have time, they see the question, they have time, oh, he asked how to change that in that file. I know how to do that, so you have to do that. And that would be really easy. You ask what you need, you get what you need. If you would ask it the wrong way, you would probably end up creating a discussion, people not knowing what you want, and maybe they would probably at some point abandon the discussion and just not help you at all, because that's not the purpose of the chat. This is a really nice code that has happened last week, when a newcomer, more or less, has asked a question from Python syntax, which could have easily been answered just by trying maybe in an IDE or just Googling or anything. It was like a function that he didn't know what arguments to give. And this is where the leader of Koala has said, if I don't know how to do something, I first spend 30 minutes trying to Google it and find it there, and only then I ask people how to solve it. Because why would you ever want to ask people questions that you could ask Google? Like, Google doesn't mind if you ask him questions. You should actually profit of Google a lot, because it answers a lot of stuff, and if you know how to search, it even answers more stuff. So you should first try to do the research and see if you can do it yourself, because most of the time you could, and only then you should try to ask the people by writing telling people, I have tried, I didn't find, but can anyone really tell me how would you do that? And then, if people would see that you actually tried and you have some knowledge on this, they would probably even engage in a discussion with you and tell you the answer of that, or maybe help you understand why it is that way. This is where I start talking about from the maintainer's view, and I'm going to tell you that it comes the other way around. So not only you have to ask the right questions, but as a maintainer you have to answer them. So first of all, if somebody asks you to help him with something, he pings you that, hey, person X, can you help me with that? And let's say you don't have time. You don't just leave him there hanging for a few hours, maybe days, just because you didn't have time. What would be wise in that situation would be to tell him, hey, I have seen your message, but I'm really sorry, I have a lot of college homework, or I have a job right now and I can't help you. Do you mind if somebody else helps you with that? Maybe they know how, or I just come back to you tomorrow or in 2 days. And right now the person will know that you are going to help them in 1 or 2 days, or will just go straight to asking someone else. And this means a lot, because he got the information from you, even if you didn't have time. The maintainer knew how to answer that correctly, how to handle the situation. That's important. And also you need to improve your newcomers guide. I think that a newcomers guide, let's say the one that I started this year in February, has been undergoing changes more or less every month. Why? Because always we were finding stuff that we could improve. People were like, oh my god, every newcomer is asking that. I think that we should add that to the newcomers guide, so it becomes something they read, they don't ask anymore. And you need to update it really often to a part where the newcomers find more or less all the information there, and they only need to ask when they don't understand something, not some typical question that would be asked all the time, because that could be very well written. And one more thing, you need to be the guide. This pretty much sums up what I have talked about by answering correctly to the people and actually helping them. You need to, if you see someone that is really interested and that person doesn't ask stupid questions and they really want to get something done, you should really take the time at some point and engage into a discussion with him to actually fix that stuff. Not because they are going to be grateful, but because by receiving that help, people would get a moral principle then that they would do the same to the next newcomer. So this way you get people you help, and that person could probably help another person that would help another person, in this way with 10 developers you could probably help 100 newcomers just by each one helping themselves, because this is probably the most important thing. We had this hackathon in October this year, when we had like 10, 15 newcomers a day, even more. And all of them were coming, solving a newcomer issue that was basically a typo, and most of them would not even come back after that. And we would spend a lot of time reviewing their work, helping them get their stuff right, and there was two kinds of people. Those that would just, you would never hear from them again. And this is quite sad, because you would just put in some few hours of work and they would just vanish. And the second kind of people would be that one that would actually go on and help the other newcomers the following day. So today they merged an issue, they worked for it, they go on with something a bit harder and a bit more challenging, and they help another newcomer tomorrow. And this saves you a lot of time as a developer, because that person can become a developer himself and probably a maintainer soon. We didn't have this. And I think that Newcomers Guide is a really important part of each community. This would probably come from my experience with KDE, where I think that this would lose them a lot of potential good contributors. And I think that you should really take the time to value your newcomers and treat them the right way, because making good newcomers and teaching them how to do things the right way would probably help them become better maintainers themselves, possibly. Thank you for listening, and see you.